Hello guys and welcome to another video. As usual, I am super excited to be talking about the recommendation of the best raid healers in Shadowlands, and this one is the specific for Casa Northuria, which is our first raid tier. Just a quick disclaimer that the game is still in beta, whereby tuning and balancing works are still in progress, especially on Covenant. It is just at the end of the day, this is more like a roughly ranking or a group of good desired healers to be selected for Castle Northuria raid, from standard raid to high-end content, aka mythic raid. Let's say, for example, in my list your desired class is not in the list. Don't be so sad or being discouraged, because at the end of the day, the most important of all is to play the class that you enjoy the most, period. As usual guys, to ask for your favor, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more future contents, and remember to ring the bell. Let's get it started. Alright, to all my beloved friends, before we come up with the ranking thing, or I can say the group of healers for raid, I would like to talk about mana. And it seems that mana is pretty tight, especially with the new expansion of first tier, whereby we don't have sufficient gears, aka low eye level, to begin with. So my recommendation is to consider to bring a restoration shaman into the table. This is because of the return ability called Mana Tide, which can be absolutely strong to regen back the mana. Despite of in new expansion, the cooldown of all potions have been set to 5 minutes cooldown, regardless you are in combat or vice versa. And perhaps it might be the boss long last like more than 5 minutes might be able to use 2 mana potions. Then again, trust me, mana is going to be an issue, and all of a sudden healers needs to control of the usage of mana and heal your allies when required, aka less overhealing. Spend the mana wisely, folks. Alright then, we have talked about the mana things, and hopefully you guys understood about it. Let us look into the ranking, but I don't say that this one is a pure ranking like got this specific order of best to the worst healer class sort of thing. It is more to like good raid killing group or team that perhaps a lot of guilds will consider when venturing into Castle Northuria raid. In my opinion, the first one is a Discipline Priest, by far the most happening healer from previous expansion as well. Despite that, Blizzard just had a few nerfs, and it's supposed to be expected due to the insane damage, which whereby converted to heal, whereby heals a lot of value. Some of the damaging abilities have been nerfed as well, and on top of that, the legendary for Shadow Word Death has been put into nerf as well, whereby it's only triggered atonement when used it's on a target. It is pretty big hit, and let us see what will happen when we go live on Shadowlands. Apart from that, Discipline Priest is having this Mind Blast and Shadow Covenant spells, which might be impacted by the Shadow Word legendary nerf kind of thing. The cool thing about this specification is a power word barrier, which can reduce 25% of the damage taken if utilized properly. Using barrier, everyone needs to stack within the barrier to receive the effect. Well folks, it is pretty strong, I would say, especially on a boss fight which requires a lot of damage to mitigate. Healing while DPS is something unique whereby all the DPS convert to heals kind of thing makes like extra DPS to push a certain mechanics. In terms of the complexity of class, Disciplined Priest is the most hardest class to play in my opinion due to the rotation and as well to apply the atonement and to track the atonement not for falling off. Need as well to learn the damage pattern aka raid damage so that a Disciplined Priest can preemptive it early on applying the massive atonement and next to execute the burst healing thing. But yeah, trust me, this spec is really hard to play to be honest. The next recommendation class to play as a healer is Restoration Shaman. Resto Shaman is really popular with its great utility raid healer in various conditions of raids, and I feel that to some extent the Shaman performance is similar to other healer class performance in Castle Nathria. The beautiful part playing as a shaman is when it comes to Shadowlands, the returning of Mana Tide Totem, which is only on 3 minutes cooldown and it has an extremely small range to regen other people's mana, so whenever a Resto Shaman wants to drop the Mana Tide, needs to inform early or yell out on dropping the totem. Restoration Shaman also have this Spirit Link Totem which acts like Power Word Barrier Disciplined Priest as well. Windrush Totem is the same like Stampeding Roar Restoration Druid on giving a temporary speed buff to move fast to escape from a certain mechanics. Don't forget that oh shit button healing type, which is really powerful emergency healing kind of thing. When we look into the detail of Castle Nathria, a lot of stack fights and of course needs to spread as well to avoid a certain boss damage. The weakness of a Restoration Shaman is definitely on heavy movement fight without activating the Spirit Walker Grace at all times, and a certain fight needs to use the Windrush Totem a lot of the fight, and maybe you're spreading healing a little bit weak. Hopefully like a certain kind of Covenant or Conduit might helping to boost up the HPS of playing as Restoration Shaman. The next healer which I can say brings a very useful toolkit to the group is Holy Paladin. When we look back into the history of this spec in BFA, especially in Eternal Palace, probably the best HPS healer I would say. Even though Devotion Aura was not showing up on the HPS meters, but they provide an insane amount of passive damage and they have no mana issues during the past, but in Shadowlands it might hurt on Holy Paladin's mana intensive due to the Crusader strike now costs more mana. Devotion Aura now provides the passive 3% damage reduction for everyone within 40 yards, which is very strong. The specification also have a defensive cooldown on 3 minutes CD, which provides the damage reduction for 8 seconds, which is extremely strong. This is due to not require the stacking criteria like Barrier or Spirit Link Totem. Blessing of Protection is also a strong utility, acts as immunity spell to bypass a certain mechanics, which is pretty awesome. Throughout the positive things on Holy Pally, there is also the negative part. Currently in beta, they don't have a strong selection of legendary to choose from the list, and hopefully Blizzard can do something to tweak on or to tune for the legendaries so that Holy Paladin got its unique selection of legendary. As usual from the previous expansion, Holy Pally is very strong in spot healing aka tank healing, and I believed that in Castle Nathria there will be something unique that brings into the table. Well folks, Those are the potential healers which I believe that will be viable to be brought inside the raid at the current stage. In my opinion, being a healer is not all about the healing per second's value, but the most important part, the utility that brings to the party to ease the journey of a progression. For other specs that I haven't mentioned, like Holy Priest, Restoration Druid, and Mistweaver Monk, it is not that their class are not good or healing or whatsoever, but the performance art still needs to be tuned and rebalanced even more as current before the release of Shadowlands. Hopefully we might see some changes for these specs. Let's talk about Restoration Druid for a moment. This specs provides healing on moving, which has been their niche for a very long time, but in terms of HPS is really decent as compared to the top healer specs that I have mentioned above. But we will see how it goes on Restoration Druid healing capabilities. Hopefully got buff like 5 to 10%, even more to compete with. Well, to be honest, the last couple of bosses in Castle North are having a few movement fights, which I can say good for Restoration Druid, but like I said before, in terms of HPS, is it adequate? For those who are meaning as Restoration Druid, don't worry, tuning by Blizzard is still ongoing, so as I would say in my previous videos, play a class that you like and bring to you happiness whenever that you are playing with. Since that, I play as both Discipline and Holy Priest, and as for Holy Priest being a very good raid healer in terms of pure or throughput healing, and I can say that the heals are surpassing the other types of healer in previous content. With changes on Prayer of Mending instant cast as well, the Circle of Healing becoming baseline. AoE healing, aka Area of Effect healing toolkit is also improving, and forgot to mention that Holy Priest having this strong raid cooldown, aka emergency healing kind of thing called Divine Hymn and Holy Word Salvation. Their viability in raid in terms of how optimal they are going to perform in raid is going to be determined through final balancing, then we can find the final judgment. Lastly, for Mistweaver Monk, I can't give my opinion much, even though I have a discussion with a few of the player meaning as Mistweaver Monk, and what they can conclude that the spec still needs to have a lot of rework, need to have tons of changes. It is like the spec is not finished at some point. I would like to point it out a few things about the spec, but it is still rubbish, I would say, as claimed from my fellow friends. This spec as well, hopefully Blizzard will look into something as we're about to hit near to the finishing line. Magic must be happen soon, I suppose. Alright everyone, as a conclusion, that is all I can say about the recommended healing spec or healing comp for Castle Northra raid. As a disclaimer again, which I had addressed at the beginning of this video, the result is based on beta testing currently, and as well with a few discussion among my friends meaning to their respective healing spec. For those who play a certain class but not in the recommended list, no need to worry because there are so many things to tweak, but in my opinion, to speed up the process, always report anything unusual bugs or playstyle which is not working into the official forum, so that dev team will take note. At least we have done our part to help. As usual folks, to end up my story, it is just my personal overview which may be right or wrong. If you have any ideas, concern, opinion, anything to add up, feel free to drop under the comments box down below to discuss. Appreciate for your full support. Thank you everyone for watching, and see you again in the next video. Take care, stay safe, and have a wonderful day.